So when I got to Mastercard 17 years ago, there was tons of tribal knowledge about the ins and outs of our data, the quirks of our data, how you would correct it, all of the processing rules in order to fix the data. And all of that tribal knowledge is critical. And so I'll just give you an example, and most of you have probably experienced this. Most of us have had a credit card statement where you look at that transaction and you go, who the heck is this merchant? And so using an example, TST asterisk STKBKS 767 shows up on your credit card statement. And you go, who, what, where, when? But with us, we have the context for that transaction that we know TST is the three-letter acronym that Toast, a payment facilitator that supports merchants, actually uses in the transaction to indicate they're there. Similarly, STBKS in our system stands for Starbucks. We know that it's coded into the system. And 767, well, that's where the store number, and that's where the store is located, so we know that's a store in Seattle. And all of that contextual data is not actually in the transactional data. And so when you're working with AI, you need that contextual data to interpret the transaction data at the speed of transaction. And so that tribal knowledge that I've been talking about, that just doesn't cut it. You need to actually embed that contextual data into the transactional information. So now that AI demands that faster context. And that was clear from the beginning as we were working. I mean, when I started Mastercard, we were using machine learning, and now we're using more advanced forms of AI. And as we were using AI, about 6 years ago, we stood up an AI governance framework to make sure we knew what we were doing with our AI, and we had a framework for managing that AI. That framework includes AI risk assessment, an understanding of the data, which is the context of the data, and we all needed that before we actually built a model. And so one of the new data scientists, the head of our AI, she came to the company and she goes, okay, I'm a data scientist, just give me the corpus of the data, I will go figure this out just from what the data tells me. However, slowly but surely, she's come to realize, oh, I can't just use the transaction data as it comes in because of examples like that TST one. Instead, I need all of that context around it. How do I actually define that transaction? Relatedly, for these fraud use cases, it's how do I define fraud? Because in Mastercard, there are multiple ways to define fraud. Is it when a cardholder claims that they were subject to fraud? It's when we're seeing a fraudulent pattern across a merchant? Is it when there's a challenge when the bank says, hey, I think this was fraudulent from what I'm seeing on my side? All of them are potential avenues for reporting fraud. And so all of that requires ever more context. We've moved from privacy by design to data by design to now context by design. And then for Mastercard, that's a huge undertaking.